some of us are so caught up in this thing called diversity because we heard diversity is really important. I'm here to tell you that a lot of this diversity stuff is bullshit. Mrs. Black sent me this story earlier this week. It's out of a publication called ProPublica. The title is Black Children Were Jailed for a Crime That Doesn't Exist. Almost nothing happened to the adults in charge. It's a very intriguing title. I looked into it. Turns out there's a judge by the name of Donna.scott in a place called Rutherford County. What's that? Munfreesboro, Tennessee, okay? And she was like this big-time juvenile judge. And she had become so powerful in this position of the juvenile detention judge that she pretty much did everything on her own. She could get warrants issued. She could try people. There's no jury. And she could say how long you'll be in jail for juveniles. She's like a one-person machine, handing down decrees like a monarch, like a czar, like deciding this one shall go to jail, this one shall be banished, this one a week, this one 6 weeks, this one, and remember, we talk about kids. Kids. Well, on April 15, 2016, officers were sent to this elementary school called Hobgood Elementary, okay? And they were told, arrest some kids. Pick up these kids and bring them to jail. Literally arrest children at an elementary school. Now, this is not unique. This judge had been doing this shit forever, okay? She had, under her watch, some 1,500 children have been thrown into jail. Now, I don't know how long they were put in jail, but it's a traumatic experience for anyone, particularly if you are, 5 years old or 6 years old or 7 years old or 8 years old, 10 years old. This is what the judge has done to children. Traumatize children. Repeatedly, different children. Just for a little bit more context of how fucked up this is. So you got Rutherford County, right? Under this judge. Her incarceration rate for juveniles was 48%. 48%. That's high as shit, right? You know, it's more than just high as shit. Because in the state of Tennessee, the average is 2%. 2% of cases, 2% of interactions that little kids have result in them going to be arrested and put into the juvenile system. But under Miss Davenport in Rutherford County, some 48%. Get what I'm saying? So this woman was violating these children's civil rights, shuffling them through the system. And on this particular day, April 15, 2016, on a Friday, she sent 3 officers to pick up these kids. All the kids she had picked up were black. This was such a fucked up situation. There was an officer, like one of those officers that hang around the schools. He knew all the kids. He knows all the faculty. He was so upset about what the teacher was doing, he faked sick and said, I ain't coming in today. No, he left the school and said, I don't even want to be here for this. This is horrific. I'm leaving. There was no way for him to stop it, so he left. That's how fucked up it was for him. He said he had chest pains all of a sudden. Because he felt that what this judge was doing, and what they were ordering him to help do was so unfathomable that he didn't want no parts of it. So 3 officers showed up, as I stated. 2 of the officers were black, 1 of the officers were white. The 2 black officers were very bothered about what they had to do. They had to go to school and pick up some children. And that felt like a real crime. Like, the worst part about it is what they're picking them up for was some made-up charge that doesn't exist as a crime. So, like, a couple weeks earlier, there was a fight off school grounds that made it to YouTube in a YouTube video of 2 little 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds punching at a bigger kid. Nothing happened. They were little. He's a much bigger kid. Nothing happened, but they were punching at him. And there were kids walking behind him who saw this happen. The judge's idea, her big idea was, all the kids that watched this thing happen, they should go to jail because they did not stop the 5 and 6-year-old from hitting the bigger kid. Get what I'm saying? This makes sense? It shouldn't make sense because this shit is not a crime. It's not a crime to be a child and not stop another child from doing something unless that something is life-threatening, a serious felony, or could result in serious injury or death. There is no such thing as a charge that this judge leveled upon these kids. And when I say kids, I mean one was in 1st grade, 2 were in 3rd grade, 1 was in 5th grade. Like, these are little fucking kids. These are little kids. And why? Because she wanted to. Because these children are out of hand nowadays. And our children should be better children. And I'm not going to let them get away with that. And I'm going to put my foot down on all these young people. That was her speech. And she locked up black kid after black kid after black kid. Now, these 2 officers that I spoke of earlier, 2 black officers were very upset. In this investigative piece that I read by ProPublica, they're on the record as being very upset, very, very concerned. They did not like it. One of the officers by the name of Miles, he was physically sick by it. He's got an 8-year-old daughter. And the thought of his daughter being arrested at school. And we're not just talking about, hey guys, come with me. No, we're talking about handcuffs. Handcuffs for little babies, taking them to court for fake charges of not breaking up a fight. There wasn't a fight. In fact, the videotape of the YouTube video that was uploaded was so fucked up, was so badly filtered, you couldn't make out who was in the video. Yeah, they just randomly chose kids. One of the children wasn't even in school that day, so they couldn't have been there. This happened on the way after school on the way home. Oh no, at a basketball game. After they got off school, allegedly they went to the basketball court, play basketball, and that's when this took place. But anyway, the point is this. We got these officers, these black officers, in the Rutherford Police Department, I guess it's called. They felt really bad about what happened. They felt really bad about what they had to do. And they had a white officer there. His name was Carroll. Officer Carroll. He was the heavy. He was the one adamant and argued with the principals and the administrators at the school who didn't want to turn the kids over. He bullied and intimidated the principal who didn't want to turn the kids over. The principal only turned the kids over because she was so upset because she thought they were going to lock her up too because she was fighting with them. And look, guys, remember, this is a scene. We got 2 black officers. We got a black administrator. We got a white officer. We got a white judge. And we got little kids, all little girls. I think one of them was a boy. Crying. Hysterical, screaming for their mothers. One of the children got sick and threw up on the floor. They put little kids in the car, took them to jail. The black officers who saw this happen, the black officers that took part in this, who reluctantly took part in this, they felt really bad. They felt really bad about what happened, what they had to do. The judge ordered it. It's in the order. Looking back, the white officer felt bad too. He's the one who cuffed the 8-year-old. He felt bad. He says, what I automatically do. I don't know why I put handcuffs on her. I don't know why I put handcuffs on a 1st grader and a 3rd grader, 2 3rd graders. I don't know why I did that. It's just what I do. I was an autopilot, just following orders. My point is this, and I mean this with all due respect to all my officers out there. What good is diversity if at the end of the day you're going to do this shit anyway? Yeah, what good is diversity? At the end of the day, this diversity don't get us nothing but reluctant conspirators. What good is diversity if all we do is get a black face to fuck us over too? What good is diversity if you don't have any authority behind the diversity in order to actually make a change? Of course, Officer Mills was upset. He had a right to be. He knew this was bullshit. How you going to arrest little kids about something that happened on school grounds? There's no police report. There's no parents filed anything. Nothing. Like, there is no reason legally for these officers to go to the school during school day and embarrass these children, piss off their parents, traumatize these kids for the rest of their fucking lives, and hold them in a fucking cell. No reason to process children. But you know what's, black kids, they so tough. That black kid ain't really sad, ain't really scared. That black kid's not really afraid. That black kid's not really traumatized. They faking it. That's what black people do. Now, if little Sir's crying, that's a different story. When Amber starts crying, we better stop what we're doing because Amber, she can't deal with this. But blacks, they'll bounce back. In fact, they ended up jailing 10 kids from this incident that was never reported with a charge that's not a charge. They made up some bullshit like, what's the made up name for this thing? It's not even a real charge. Negligible, no, they had no evidence. I forget the name, but something's crazy like failure to intervene or some shit. Failure to intervene. Anyway, like I said, 10 children were picked up. All black. 4 were girls. 6 were boys. Every girl was released. Of the 4 boys were jailed. The point is this, guys. What good is it? Are we falling for the okie doke when we say we want diversity? I think we are falling for the okie doke when we say we want diversity. I think it's pointless if all we have is diversity. We need something much more intense than diversity. Diversity ain't gonna save us. You know what'll save us? Cut the check. Yeah, cut the check will save us. You know why? Because of that racist ass, power-hungry, horrible, garbage judge thought that those black kids came from families with money that will sue the shit out of that court. She wouldn't have done it. Nah, she wouldn't have done it. She'd have thought better of it. But see, white folks know you ain't got no damn money. They know you don't have, they assume that black people are powerless. And why can they assume we're powerless? Because by and large, we are fucking broke. Don't listen to these people that try to act like they don't know the condition of black people to a certain extent. Like, they might not know that the average black family's worth 10% of the average white family. They might not know the statistics, but they fucking know. Like, it's not like they're not in the realm of understanding that black people, by and large, don't have paper like that, okay? So, what I'm telling you is, if we had money, this situation doesn't happen. But just having black cops ain't enough in a system that's horrible, in a system built on pushing black people, and in this case, black children, through a system that makes money for the state. Why else are you locking up children? Why is there a 48%? And don't tell me she's trying to clean up the fucking area. Will you clean it up? She makes up charges that don't exist in any citation books. There's no such thing as a failure to intervene. That's for cops. There's no failure to intervene in a slap boxing contest between a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old where no one called the cops and there's no injury. There is no such statute exists. She made up some shit to make money for the state. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow we find out that somebody's getting some kickbacks. Now, it turns out there's a lawsuit that anyone born after October 1997 and jailed at the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center can file a claim and an $11 million settlement connected to the class action lawsuit. When we think we're looking for diversity, we're looking for something else. Like, we don't want diversity, we want equality, right? Right? We want to be treated with respect. We don't want police preying on us. Well, that ain't being accomplished by having black cops. We want our children to be educated in a system that doesn't undermine them. But that's not being achieved just by having a black teacher. Black teachers don't determine the class structure. They don't determine the curriculum. They don't determine who gets kicked out, who gets arrested. None of these things. There's got to be more instances where that applies. A black face does not save us. And it's not just if the black face cares or not. The officer, I believe that Officer Mills and the other officer were very upset. In fact, if you look up this story, they went to much detail to explain this story. How one of the fathers of one of the children came up to the jail and really yelled at this officer and got in his face and the officer's like, man, I'm sorry, man. I wish I could do something, you know. And the parent is like, fuck you, man. He's like, you're right, man. I know. Look, I'd be the same way if it was my child. So I'm not saying that this officer or these officers are sellouts. That's too easy. It's worse than that. Okay? It's worse than black people are individual sellouts. I wish that was the case. That's fixable by getting rid of sellouts. No, we're talking about the imbalance is so deep. It goes so far that ain't gonna be enough. It ain't just if you get rid of one bad commentator or if you get rid of one bad cop. You got a whole bunch of other cops. We got good cops. There's a good cop right now. There's a good cop. His name is Carl Cavalier. He's in Louisiana. He's a Louisiana state trooper. He blew the whistle on a story that I covered earlier this year, or maybe last year, of Ronald Green. Ronald Green was a motorist who was killed by the Louisiana state troopers. They said he died, had a cardiac arrest, so he had some weed in his system. But he had blunt force trauma on his fucking head. That didn't come from the car crash. They lied about how this man died. It took over 400 days for them to turn over the actual body cam footage that proved that he was alive after the car accident. They lied and falsified documents saying he died in the car accident. Then we end up a year later with footage of Mr. Ronald Green alive and well, asking officers, please don't kill him, as they drag him out of the car and proceed to beat him the fuck up. Well, Carl Cavalier, he went public about it. He went public about it, called out the Louisiana Police Department, said how much this was, how horrible this was, said how they were covering up how racist they were. He also filed lawsuits about the racism that he's received, how he's seen other heinous acts and racist acts in that law enforcement agency or in that police station. And what did he get for it? He's about to be fired. They're going to fire and get rid of his ass. Right now, he's on paid leave. They're about to fire him. They sent him paperwork this week saying, we're about to fire your ass. So it's not just that we have cops that won't step up. That's not the only story of a black cop stepping up and saying, hey, this is racist. Hey, this is wrong. This is police brutality that we're witnessing. So it's not just that. I'm not saying we don't have some sellout cops. But what I'm saying is, even when we have cops that stand up, they get bulldozed because they don't have any power. They have no power because they're still operating within a system that doesn't give them power. Sometimes I think we're kind of lulled to sleep because we got Don Lemon talking to us. Or we're lulled to sleep because we got Joy Reid talking to us. And we forget that they only have jobs. They have jobs working for white companies. Or white companies with a particular political point of view. What's the black woman on Fox News? Y'all know her name. It applies to her too. And the black guy with the glasses. It applies to him too. So this ain't about Democrats and Republicans. Both parties suck, Johnson. Both parties suck, Johnson. Come on now. That ain't my damn point. The point is, when you see a black face, sometimes we think that black face got our back, but that black face is another part of a system. And it could be a white face. Same thing. What's the difference? Well, psychologically, you're thinking, it's a brother. Oh, it's a sister. They wouldn't throw us under the bus, and your ass right up under the bus. Badoop, badoop, right under the fucking bus. So we fall for the okie doke when we think, hey, we see a black face, that's gonna hold it down. Nah, if the black face or the white face is not in control. Yeah, if they're not in control, if they don't control their own destiny, if they don't control their own money, if they don't control their own viewership, if they don't control their own stability, if they don't control their enterprise, their distribution, if they got to go through this hoop and that hoop, and this person got to sign off, and that person got to approve it, these people got to fund it, if all this shit has to happen for them to put out the shit they're putting out, or for them to have a job tomorrow, how you going to trust that? Now, what's one thing if it's commentary about who's the best football team? It's one thing if it's a conversation about should you go see this movie or not? If Denzel's latest movie deserves an Oscar or not. But we're talking about real shit. We're talking about things that matter. We're talking about the education quality of education that our children get. And we're talking about mass incarceration. We're talking about police brutality. And we're talking about reparations, and that's a good idea. And we're talking about a black agenda. We're talking about things that matter to black people, and we're talking about our ability to move about this world, this country, as free human beings, pursuit of happiness, and have our constitutional rights intact. Well, man, that takes us being smarter and not falling for the okie doke and thinking just because they got the complexion as ours, that they got the same self-reflection and are there for our protection. Shout out to Paul Mooney. I know it's different, but it's the same concept.
Pause. Wait, hold up, pause. No debate, no applause. Tired of the wait, man, we need a revolution, but you came to debate. We be down for the cause. I be late on a sauce. Keep us down for the cause. Fuck up, round, get a public execution. Better wise up, hold up, fuck it, pause.